I got to set up. And then once I get set up, we'll start running some parts. Try to bring you in here closer, so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so, oh, the computer's off. That's weird. That really sucks, because now I'll have to home the machine. Okay, so I had planned to come out here, fire it up and run, but the computer's off, which means when I start the software, I have to rehome the machine. Every time the computer's off, I like to take the opportunity to wipe the screen down, just because it's a touch screen and it gets really dirty. So I always find a nice clean rag. They give you a stylus, but I ain't got time to pick up a stylus every time I want to touch something. But yeah. All right, so let's figure out why this is off. You know, there was a Windows update. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe it just decided to update. Oh, well, I forgot to turn on. I want to, let's see here. How do I see the comments? Top chat? No. We want to see all the chats. Live chat. There we go. Sometimes I forget to do that. And then I don't see any of the questions or comments till way after the fact. All right, computer's booting up. Let's get this thing going. Get this out of the way. When I machine parts, I like to have my immediate area as organized as possible. Just because that increases efficiency. I'm a little bit tilted. Let's see if I can adjust the legs on the tripod here to fix that. It always bugs me when the screen's tilted. How's everybody doing? Y'all at work, at home, on your way home? Hopefully you're not driving and watching. So, the project tonight is going to be, this is part of the Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR. You'll notice this back slot's a lot bigger. So the XR, the rib back here that holds the torch, is 1.5 inches. And on the Pro, it's 1 inch. So these only have one more op. I have to thread mill the tops. So I got to start out by homing the machine. And sometimes if I've been running the machine for a little bit and I hit home, it's going to go and it's going to miss a whole bunch of steps because there's chips in between the limit switches. So that can cause problems. So let's see if it actually homes. Fingers crossed. So far, hey, we had a good homing cycle. So that was great. Every now and again, if I make a lot of chips, like I said, chips will get in between the limit switches and the thing that hits it, and it goes, and yeah. So then you got to blow everything out and rehome it. So now that the machine's home, we got to bring it forward, and we got to put the edge finder on. So, if any of you want to know how the MR-1 works, I don't know if you can see the screen. Yeah, you can kind of see the screen. Although you probably can't see this light yellow button that says send to front. So hit that, continue. And now it's coming to the front. So once it gets here, I like to have it right here when I change tools, and then I put my tool setter right there. So after I change a tool, if I want to calibrate it, then it doesn't take much. Now, some of you guys who have been with the channel for a while might notice it looks different. I chopped all of this part out of the guard. This guard used to come all the way down to here, which was a pain because, see the tool? You wouldn't see the tool if I hadn't removed that section. So, and I'd seen other YouTubers do it, and so I thought that was a good idea, and it was. Took that off, moved up the plastic cover, and then the coolant nozzle over here, it used to be all the way down here. So if you wanted to get a wrench on here, and rotate it, you would hit the coolant nozzle. So that was a big pain in the butt, because if you're trying to change tools, you want to be able to actually turn the wrench. Well, you couldn't, because it would hit the valve on the other side. So this part has become a lot easier because I now have access, well, really good access to the tools. So I'm running a 4mm 3-flute carbide polished end mill from Haas Tooling. I love Haas Tooling. Basically, from what I've been told, Haas Tooling is just YG Tooling rebranded, which makes sense because it looks identical and it says it's made in South Korea, which is where they make YG-1 tooling. So I love their tooling, and I find it's $1 or $2 cheaper if you get the metric tooling. I don't really care. My machine came with metric collets, so, you know, and then I got all the half sizes on the collets, so I can run, that's another thing. If you're gonna get ER20, if you get a big enough set, it'll have 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5 millimeters, which basically covers all of metric and all of the standard stuff. You just find the one that, you know, it fits. And also, when you're trying to go through and pick which collet fits in there, it should never be like, when you push it in, it should not have to expand. It's better to have it go in to where it won't hold and it'll fall out, and then you squeeze it down, than, you know, pushing it in and expanding it. Because if you have to expand it, you could pinch more at the bottom than the top. So I always make sure that you don't get an undersized. Just go up to the next one if it's really tough. All right, let's get the edge finder in there. It's a bummer. I was really hoping that I wouldn't have to edge find, but the computer had a Windows update and it restarted. And now, because the computer was off, I had to start the software from, which anytime you boot up the software, it makes you home the machine. So, a little bit of a setback. It's going to take me a little bit longer now to get going, but now I just got to find my pendant. There it is. All right, so I'm going to turn the spindle on. This is my second spindle, by the way. First spindle, I just totally made the bearings puke their guts out. So that was bad because it put me a week behind on all of the orders that I had. So I'm going to take it, put it in that direction, and now I'm going to load the part. Always make sure your jaws don't have chips, because if you have shavings, it won't hold flat. So that's the most important thing. Like when you're just running a machine, not other, if you're a programmer, there's other important things. But if you're an operator, having your parallels clean is absolutely paramount if you want quality parts. So, and I always close my eyes when I pull the trigger. I know I should get some safety glasses, but they're somewhere in the shop right now, and I'm in a hurry. So I will grab those in a second. All right. Let me go find my safety glasses. There they are. All right, we are ready to go. Let's see here. Try to get you guys in a spot where we can both see what's happening. All right, so we got the pendant here. Just bring it down. Then I hit tab, and that toggles the increments. So now I'm going 10,000ths at a time. Now I'm going to go down to 1,000ths at a time by hitting the tab button. I'm going to click slowly until the edge finder jumps to the side. Just to make sure it's not a fluke, I always do it twice. So I back up, and now I do it again, going a little bit slower. There we go. As soon as it kicks over, I zero my X. Now I'm going to toggle increments to continuous, jump back, jump over, go back down to 10 thou movements, jump forward, and go to 1 thou movements. I like to give it time in between each click. That way, if it touches, you know, it has time to grip. And I know that that's the thou where I need to set 0. Right there. All right. So that's my Y. So now I'm going to go up with the Z. So go to continuous. Now the thing is that edge finder is 200 thousandths thick. So I need to now offset half that distance, which would be 100 thousandths. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell the machine to go to XY0, which the machine has an XY0 button. So now that it's there, I'm going to incrementally switch it to 100 thousandths, and I'm going to go forward 1 and over 1. Now I re-zero, and that's actually 0. So that covers the X and the Y0. Now I need to get the Z, which is important. So I'm going to turn the spindle off. And I'm going to bring it to the front. So there's a function that you just hit bring to front, and it goes up, and then it will come to the front. It's important that it always goes up first, which they do automatically. That way you don't crash it. If you guys have any questions, make sure you leave them. I can see the screen, so I can answer any questions you have while we go along here. All right, so pull the edge finder. And when Langmuir gave me a new spindle, they gave me a new collet nut. So the nice thing is I always just leave, and I have an extra 3/8 collet because the machine came with a 3/8, and then the kit I bought has a 3/8. So my edge finder just always stays in this. This makes it really fast. I just grab this, and then I can just switch, grab this, which this is dirty, full of fine shavings. Yeah. So when you're running little tiny end mills like that 4mm, the shavings are so small. They're just floating in the air. They should. Even though they were wet, they were soaking wet, and they just poof. All right. So always make sure you get your collet clean. If you have shavings built up, you'll get run out. Run out is when a drill spins, but instead of just spinning, it's going like this as well as spinning, right? So its center is not centered with this. That's called run out. That will make your world really bad if you're machining. I know some of you guys know all this stuff. I'm just kind of covering it for the, just to cover all the basics. I'm looking for an end mill that I can't find. I need my thread mill. There it is. So this is a thread mill. I need to loosen my camera so I can move it easier. There we go. All right, sorry for making everybody dizzy. So let's place this. Oh, so I got to get the right collet. I should wear my head-mounted GoPro. There we go. That's the one. If you guys are watching this and you are a subscriber, make sure you smash the like button. That will help me out. So one thing that I slightly struggle with a little bit on this channel is the name of the channel is BECK'S Armory. So that implies weapons, which basically makes it really hard to get reach. I went to get new bank accounts on Monday, so I could wire transfer money around the world. And they asked me a couple times in different ways if I was selling weapons. And I had to keep basically answering no. I'm a metal fab shop. But they were really curious why my name was BECK'S Armory. And they didn't say they wouldn't give me a checking account or these accounts, but they kept asking. And I know that this bank's policy is not to serve anyone in the firearms-related community. So they were suspicious, and I'm like, you know what? That the Armory part of the company name is my origin, right? Some of you guys know I started out on YouTube as a gun channel. And then I got like shadow banned. My channel just completely died for like 3 years. They cut my revenue by 92%. So I just kind of went away. I was like, forget this, whatever. Then COVID happened, and apparently YouTube didn't care about their morals, and the views just went through the roof. And so I said, well, I'll come back to YouTube. So that's what happened. I decided, because I've been posting on other platforms, it was just, I don't know. When somebody says they don't like you, I don't go out of my way to try to change their mind. And so YouTube was kind of like, we don't like you. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't like YouTube either, but I like the people on YouTube. But the community's great. So sometimes you just have to look past, them, because it's worth it. All right, let's get back. Now we have to set the Z height. How's it going? Sorry, man, the name is so small with my glasses on. Wow, I'm getting old. So what do you guys do? Are you makers? Are you fabricators? Or you just enjoy watching fabrication and making or whatever? Hopefully you can hear me even though I'm facing away from the camera. Can you guys hear me when I'm talking like this, face away from the camera? If not, somebody let me know. Okay, so now I have to grab a piece of paper. I'll be right back in a second. Sounds good? Thanks, man. Thanks for letting me know. You do hot shots for oil fields, light guns, though. Sweet. And yes, he can hear you. Thanks a lot, man. Explain to me what's a hot shot? Is that like the start? I'm unfamiliar with the with what that is. All right, I got my piece of paper. So I put my piece of paper on there, and I got to come down. When I get really close, I wiggle it, and then when the paper gets stuck, I know to stop. And that will not actually will not damage your tool. So now the MR-1 came with a digital probe, but I don't use it because it sucked, like bad sucked, and I can't put a probe in and go beep, 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 and then it be wrong, and then I run parts, because that's a big way, it's an easy way to waste a lot of money. So I've just been edge finding manually. Now Langmuir just came out with a brand new rebuild kit, and they're selling it to those of us who bought the probe at cost, which is like really cheap, like $30. So I ordered one, I pre-ordered one. Whenever they're available, I'm gonna get one, and then I'll be back to using the probe. Currently maintenance work on getting your FFL to do gun manufacturing. Nice. Dude, I actually, back in the day, I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but I filled out the FFL. I got my fingerprints. I took my passport photo. I had the whole packet ready, and I was going to open a gun store. And for whatever reason, I don't remember now why, but I just kept putting it off. I held on to that paperwork. Till it was irrelevant, and I was like, okay, it's time to give this up. I know why, because I was selling reloading components at gun shows, and I really wanted to manufacture ammo, and also some suppliers would only sell to me as far as ammo and reloading components if I had an FFL. But then I ended up setting up an LLC and had a building dedicated to it, and then I was able to get suppliers to sell to me, so I didn't need the FFL. But at some point I was but then Trump didn't win, and this is what happened to the prices or no, Hillary didn't win, and then the prices of everything went through the floor. And every little small gun company in my area went out of business. And thank goodness, right before the election in 2016, I decided not to buy another round of inventory. I said, you know what, I'm gonna wait and see what happens. And then when Hillary didn't win, everybody stopped going to the gun shows. The prices, like, literally just went off a cliff. And within a month or two, everything I had, all the inventory I had, I paid more than what was selling it for. And I sold about the rest of my reloading supplies. I probably took a 30 to 40% haircut just to liquidate the inventory because nobody would buy it. That's how fast the market went down. So then I switched to, I was still going to the gun shows, and I started selling forges because they were gun and knife shows. They always are combined. So I started selling forges, and those were going great. Then I sold a belt grinder, and that was history. From then on, it was all belt grinders. Okay, so that's what a hot shot is, or hot shot for oil drilling is haul equipment to drill or pull sites. The equipment is a wide variety: pumps, well hands, chemicals, water, pots, potties, you name it. Nice. So you basically, like, you set up kind of like at the very beginning of the project. Is that what I'm understanding? Sled truck, hauling, ooh, nice. Hey man, you can do it. I find the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is successful people don't give up even when they start failing. They just find another way. So, dude, I actually have thousands of primers, but I decided to keep them for myself because you can't buy them. So, yeah, I have about 6,000 primers, which isn't a ton. Back in the day when I was selling like projectiles, I'd have like 50 to 70,000 projectiles, but I liquidated all of it, and I kept some for myself because I do have the ability to reload. So, anyway, I'm gonna set this 0. Now I gotta switch to 1 thou, because I was doing 10 thou drops. So now, every time I click, okay, it's tight, so that's 0. So I hit 0 on the Z, and I raise it up so I can get that out. Now my program is ready to run. Now, if I'm wrong, it's gonna break that thread mill off, and a thread mill is like 20 or 30 bucks. So hopefully I'm not wrong. Want to cross our fingers? All right, let me put this pendant away. Now, sometimes when I get jabbering, I forget things. So let me take a moment, make sure I've got everything. XYZ is set. Oh, I did not calibrate. So now that I know where the Z is, I want to come over here and I want to tell the machine where my tool is. That way when I do the next tool, all I have to do is hit set tool, and I don't have to do the Z process anymore. So I'm going to raise up the Z, and I'm going to tell it to calibrate the tool center. Okay, so now it's going to calibrate the tool center, so it knows the difference between the top of the part and the top of the tool center. And from this point on, as long as I'm still running this part with different tools, I just put a tool in and hit set, and it will come over and check the tool automatically. So that's a really nice thing. Nice, you get to set up the site. Don't have to get your hands dirty. That's good for an oil field, man. Load and haul trailers. Hey, you know what? Whoever can do the job can do the job. And if you have enough drive, you can pretty much achieve whatever you want in this country. That's what I love about it. So, all right, we're ready to go. Let's get my coolant down there. Let's double check it. So I'm just going to turn the coolant on, see where it lands. I want to be a little bit above the bottom, right? Because when it starts to do its thing, it's going to be inside the material. And if I'm shooting the coolant right at the bottom part, as soon as it goes in, I'm not hitting the tool at all. So I want to be above it. And I know this is going to go into the tool or into the part a lot, right? So I'm going to go, but as long as I'm getting coolant on the tool most of the time, that's the key. All right, let me load the program. This is op 4.1, and the nice thing is the display here. It shows me my program, so I expand it and I double check. So this is a 1917 thread mill, which is good because that's what I want it to be. If it weren't, I'd be in trouble. And then I can zoom in here, and if you see those tool paths, you can tell those are little spirals, which is good. That's what they need to be. So I'm good to go. All I have to do is hit this start button and hope I don't break $30 of tooling. So if you're not somebody who likes to take risks, CNC machine is probably not a good idea. All right, moment of truth. Is it on? Is it on? Oh, look at that. It did not crash. Yeah, thanks, man. And then the question is, when it's done, will it hold a threaded bolt or screw, whatever? First hole done. So previously, when I was running these threads, I was doing more passes than I am now. So I want to make sure it's not too tight. Because if you put a lot of pressure on the tool deflects and it won't cut as deep. Sometimes you can do a spring pass where you're not actually moving over any additional distance. You just do one more pass, and if the tool had been flexing, it will unflex when you do that last spring pass. So let's check it. Put the safety glasses down. So I don't want to pull it out just in case I have to do it again. Because if I move it, when I put it back in, even a thou or two, it's going to affect things. So I'm going to go grab a screw and we're going to try it out. All right, so we got the 1/4-20 screw. What kind of parts do I mill? Do I make gun frames? I don't do any gun stuff. This is for a CNC plasma table. That's a smidge on the tight side, but it's okay if it's tight. If it's tight, that means it'll hold threads really good. If I can put it in with my fingers, it's okay. Do I need to go inside and reprogram this? Let me grab an Allen wrench to see how tight that is. Can't find Allen wrenches. All right, let's try it out. So I can put this in. You know, it's okay. The nice thing, if it's snug like this and it's aluminum, it won't vibrate loose. And this is going to be used on a CNC plasma table. So I think it's okay. I kind of like it a little tight. Oh my, sorry. Let's call it good. So I'm gonna put this back, pull this part out, and I got 24 more to go, or 23 because I messed one up. Let's look at this. It does look pretty good. I was doing a spring pass on the previous ones. So also, I did, okay, let's load. Load and go. So, Now's when I gotta get efficient. So this is the not as fun part. We just sit here and load and unload, load and unload, load and unload, the exact same repetitive motion over and over for a really long time. But it's a part of being a machine, having a machine shop. I've talked myself out of buying an MR-1 to make gun mowers for my business isn't. But yet, I'll get it eventually. Still getting my crossfire down. Nice. Making steel targets. Nice. I was gonna make steel targets, and I went to a gun show, and I didn't make any. And this guy walked up to me. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I was like, "Good." He's like, "You make grinders?" I said, "Yeah." I was like, "I got a CNC plasma table." And he's like, "Oh, so do I." I said, "Oh, what do you make?" He's like, "Oh, I make gun targets. I'm right over there." And so I was like, "Oh, well, he's coming to the same gun show, and he's selling the AR-500 targets, and he has a CNC plasma table." So I was like, "I don't know. It might be crowded space. Maybe I won't make gun targets." But he was really interested in my grinder. It was the very first one I ever built. And so he's like, "Dude, like, I really like your grinder." He's like, "This looks really good." I was like, "Where are you located?" He's like, "I'm located in," I'm not going to say, but my hometown. And I was like, "What? I'm located there." And it turns out we live 5 miles apart. And it turns out we've become really good friends. And like, he's one of my best friends. And it's been that way for like 3 years now. And we met at the gun show. He bought my very first BA shredder ever. And his son was in my son's preschool. And they've been in the same class. They're now in 4th grade. So yeah, it was great. You know, it's great how like you meet people in this community, you know, that turn into like lifelong friends. Yeah, you can get 80% lowers, and this machine would be amazing for that. You could make yourself some soft jaws, and you know that hold it in all the different directions. You could set this thing up to do multiples. You could even do it from scratch. Well, the only problem would be the threaded buffer tube area, because I don't think there's enough Z height for you to stand one up on it. I don't think so. So you would have to start with an 80%, or you would have to do that part on a different machine, like a lathe or something. Which this could make the tooling you need for the lathe. You could make something that goes into a lathe that an AR lower would attach to, and then you could thread it from the end. Let me try that bolt again. I'm on the fence if I need to make this looser or not. Because I assembled all of these myself, just to make sure that they're good. And I don't want to go back through. You know what? I don't know. I'm going to open these up. I don't like it that tight. All right, guys. Well, that means I have to end this live stream. I have to go inside, get on the computer, and adjust my program. I need to go like 2,000ths more, and then it'd be perfect. I mean, I can get it started by hand, but I just don't like how tight that is. And this is a really nice thing about thread milling, is I can adjust this. If this was a tap, I'd get whatever the tap was, right? And then I'd have to go get a different tap or buy a different tap. I had a metal printer. I heard the metal printers and even 3D plastic printers can make them. Well, okay, I've run 3D printers. My previous job from that I worked at from 2009 until 2016. I was there 9 years, and we had 3D printers, and I ran them all the time. So I've run 3D printers for about 3 to 4 years on a daily basis, and you cannot create. I mean, you could make a pew pew that would give you a couple shots. That's it. Even if you made it and you put thermal inserts, like where you heat up the metal threaded part and you thermally insert that, structurally, the bond between layers on plastic 3D printers is nothing compared to thermoplastics. So thermoplastics is when you injection mold something. So you take plastic and you put it under 100 tons, and they're on an immense and hundreds of degrees of heat, and then you pop it out. That's how a lot of plastic parts are made. 3D printed parts are nowhere close to as strong as those, because the strength is in the strand, right? It builds like a hot glue gun. Then it goes to the next level and it just melts to the previous level. And the bond between that is not even 100%. It's like two flat tires, right? So you have a round piece and a round piece that are pushed against each other. So they have a small contact area. Now they've gotten a lot better. The density has gone up substantially in 3D printers over the last 5 to 10 years, but this still will not compare. Now, the metal 3D printers, a lot of times they say metal 3D printers. All that means is there's metal powder inside the resin. So it's still a resin build in the same way of all the plastic parts. It just has metal impregnated in the plastic. So you got to be careful. Some people might try to sell you a metal 3D printer, and it's not really a metal 3D printer. Now, there are SLS machines with metal powder, and then it actually laser sinters that metal to the previous. It literally melts it with a laser into the previous. So that's thermally bonded, like welding, into that previous layer, and it does super fine layers, and it builds that whole thing with laser sintering. And then you take that laser sintered metal part and you put it in an oven where it is melted together. Those parts are legit metal parts, and automotive companies do that. A lot of times they will sinter the part in powdered metal, and then they'll smash it under immense pressure to get it tighter, and then they'll put it in a furnace. So powdered metal is a thing, but not all printers that say they are metal 3D printers are actually metal 3D printers. Suspending metal powder inside of plastic does not make it a metal part. It makes it a metal impregnated part. So it's important to know those differences. I just went on a really long rant about 3D printers, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. I've done a lot with 3D printers. I want to buy a Bamboo Labs X1 carbine. In my mind, that is the best hobby grade printer on the market. It's the very top of the hobby grade, and it's at a great price. Now, this is just my research. I don't have one yet, so take it with a grain of salt. You have to do your own research, but I am going to get one, and then I'll know for sure. Not the whole thing, just the lower. I have the upper. Yeah, but the lower, I guess the lower just holds the trigger group, but it also holds the buffer tube. So the problem is, I would think the support where the buffer tube is would break off if it were 3D printed. Because that part that sticks up where the buffer tube threads in, that takes a lot of shock when the gun cycles, and I don't think that would hold up. Yeah, you could try it, but also keep in mind the buffer tube controls the recoil. So if it snaps off, I don't know. Like I said, try it at your own risk. Can you melt the scraps down into bars and reuse them? You can, but the problem is this is 6061 aluminum, which is not great for casting. Casting aluminum, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is 2000 series or 3000 series. So 6000 series, like 6061, 6063, is not good for casting. It'll be porous and have lots of voids and and air bubbles, and I have everything I need to do casting, because back in the day I used to do that. So I've got the flux, I've got the crucibles, I've got the little furnace, and my buddy down the road, he can melt 10 pounds of aluminum at once. So we have the ability, but I don't know. Now here's the thing. I've also heard that swarf, they don't give you jack when you go to take it back in. If that's the case, I might melt it into bars and take it as aluminum bars, so I get more money to recycle. I don't know if it's worth it though. I mean, I'm buying propane. Might just be a wash. But I emailed today Omni, which is a metal recycler, to tell them I have 44-gallon trash can full in just like a week or less. So I'm gonna need to set up something to get rid of all this swarf. There's one machine that combines laser sintering with a 5-axis milling machine. That's crazy. Wow, that's pretty cool. I saw some stuff like that at FabTech. I haven't been to FabTech since before COVID, so hurts my heart a little bit. I love FabTech. I like it even more than ITS. If you don't know, FabTech is like this massive fabrication trade show. It's in Chicago, and then it's other places. I think this year it's in Florida, but it comes back to Chicago like every other year. And when it's in Chicago is when I try to go. But basically, FabTech is like every type of fabrication company that in the world is there showing off their stuff. So I saw some 3D printers there where it's basically held a MIG gun and just went around and created full, like really big, like massive things with just laying down weld, and it would go, I mean, it was crazy. That was cool. I think you're right. It probably would shear the tube. Yeah. I'll do some more looking into the metal powder technique. Yeah. So SLS is the metal powdered sintering type of 3D printers, and they are pretty expensive. Now, I just looked into this a couple weeks ago because the owner of my day job wanted me to look into it because he was interested. There is a company, I forget the name, but I'm sure you'll find it if you're looking at SLS printers, that just started to make a like consumer level SLS machine. Because typically SLS machines have always been these huge companies like Shapeways, these online companies that run farms, and some SLS machines are, you know, $1 million, $500,000, $250,000. SLS is pretty expensive, but there is a company, and I wish I could remember the name, that has like a small one for like actual people in their garages. And I don't remember the name, but I'll be fine them because they might have something like in a regular person's price range. Unless you're a millionaire, then hey, you get it, man. What's up, Rich? Yeah, so I was making some parts, and then I decided that this thread milling, I modified the program last night before I brought it out here, and I took off the spring pass. So basically, it would do one more pass to get rid of the deflection of the tool. And that extra pass, I think, is just what it needs, because I can start it by hand, but it's just too tight. I don't want the threads to be that tight. So I was going to shut down the live, go inside and modify the program, but then I just started to answer questions on here, and I got on a bunch of rants about 3D printers, I just talk about 3D printers a lot. What are you up to? Hey, if everybody watching, if you could give me a thumbs up on this, that would really help, because YouTube, they won't put my stuff on the browser if it doesn't get any likes. So shameless self-plug there. I always forget. Honestly, when I'm watching YouTubers, I always forget to hit the like button until they say something. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry. Like, even the channels I watch all the time that I love, I still forget to hit the like button until they say something. So that's why I say it, because I'm not only a creator on YouTube, I'm a consumer of YouTube. I've learned most of what I know, I learned off YouTube, so. Budget 8K worth it. You know, you can get a lot for that, man. But you want to buy more than one machine. So, yeah, Yeah. Now, the best thing I could probably say is a lot of these machines now will print carbon fiber. Now that filament is a lot more expensive. The X1 carbon from Bamboo Labs does print carbon fiber, and that's a very strong FDM process. FDM's fused deposition modeling. That's where it has the filament on a wheel. SLS is selective laser sintering. That's where it wipes the powder and then it lasers it with the laser and solidifies it. SLS can also be SLS resin, where it has a liquid and it wipes, and then it can have a UV laser or it UV cures. And then some companies have like Objet, which Stratasys has an Objet, which is basically like a laser printer. It has a table and it has like a print head, just like instead of ink, it puts down UV curing plastic. So it goes and every time it goes past, it puts down a layer of super thin plastic, and there's a UV light that follows the head that cures it, and then it puts down another layer and then it cures it, and then so that's another process. But the most popular is FDM. That's where you have the spool of material. Thanks, man. Thanks for the thumbs up. That always helps. It's getting kind of cold in here. Anyways, it's been fun hanging out, guys. Hope you stop in the next time I do a live. I should do more lives, honestly. They're a lot of fun. But I got to go in the house, and I have to modify this program so this goes in a little bit looser. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye. I was trying to leave, and it came back. All right. Come on, Richard. I don't even know how to... Oh, there's the X. See ya.